Welcome everyone to our What's New with MaxiFi webinar. I am Danielle Walls, the Customer Success Manager over here at Economic Security Planning. And today we're excited to walk you through the latest updates, improvements, and what's coming next for MaxiFi. Now, before we get started, I wanted to highlight a few ways that you can stay connected with us. We do host weekly live sessions, including office hours and orientation events, where you can get guided help, ask questions, and learn more about how to make the most out of MaxiFi. We've also launched a new monthly newsletter, which is a great way to keep up with new features, planning tips, and upcoming webinars. And if you haven't already, I would like to invite you to feel free to join us on Reddit at r/Maxify. It's a very active space. We have about 450 members now. You can share insights, scenarios, feedback. We post updates regularly as well from our end, so you can stay in the loop. And of course, for our presenter spotlight today, you will be hearing from our CEO and professor of economics over at Boston University, Larry Kotlikoff, and he will be walking you through what's new with MaxiFi and also a little bit about the economy and how that could affect your planning. Please enjoy today's session and let us know if we can be of any further assistance at the end.
Danielle, great. I'm going to just go to this very quick slideshow. And so one thing that's new is we have a new logo and a new website. Many of you have gone to maxify.com and seen that. I'll kind of briefly kind of kick it over to that in a second, but I want to just kind of list our new initiatives. One is, of course, the new website. We're also putting together a new website for Maximize My Social Security as well, which is our standalone Social Security tool. It's got the same code as MaxiFi Planner with respect to Social Security. So if you're running MaxiFi, there's no reason to get Maximize My Social Security. We've got this new quarterly What's New with MaxiFi webinar series starting today. We continue to have office hours, weekly office hours that we started back, I guess, in the spring. And so Jay does it 1 week and I do it the next week, and then he does it. So we just keep rotating. And they usually go an hour to a quarter, an hour and a half. And we usually get to everybody's questions, usually somewhere around 125, 150 people come. Everybody gets their questions answered. Generally, if there's some questions that aren't answered, you can always send an email to kotlikoff@gmail. You can click on the help icon when you're running MaxiFi. We'll get you your answers. We have a new orientation session that we set up for new users, new subscribers with Mark Brandt and Kara Brandt, who are our Right Stuff pilots. Mark's former U2 pilot. If you don't know what a U2 plane is, you should watch The Bridge, which is a movie with Tom Hanks, and you'll see, you'll learn something about U2. We can also obviously search for it. It's a spy plane. Mark was wearing a spacesuit. He said if there was a little pinhole in his spacesuit, he would have turned into a raisin. And Kara ran piloted the C-5 cargo planes for the Air Force when she was in the Air Force. So they're both in the Air Force, and they both went to work for United. Mark is still flying for United, and Kara's does some work with us, and Mark does as well. And Kara also does training for drone pilots with the Air Force. So they're really cool folks. We have the Roth workshop that Kara is now running for pro users. We hope to host this for households in 2026. Won't be super expensive for people to sign up for. We have expanded services, flight check with Mark and Kara that you have set up your data. If you want to have it checked over, want to get some quick ideas about navigation, that we have a lot of things on the website to help people, a lot of videos I'll show you, point to for people to do it on their own. And most people don't need any of these services. They can handle figuring this out solely on their own. We think our software is extremely user-friendly, it was ranked it was ranked the best financial planning software of 2025 by Bankrate, along with two other programs. One is Bolden and one is Empower. They're doing more conventional financial planning, and so ours is the only economics-based planning. So Jay is running this co-piloting service that many of you have signed up for, and then there's a concierge service with me or with Mark and Kara, and then we've also started a Reddit channel. Danielle's started that, and we have, I don't know, about 300 or so people actively involved in that discussion. So that's another way to get answers, to talk to other kind of family members here of the MaxiFi family. You can also refer a friend now. If you go to your account setting in MaxiFi.com, you can uh, get a link that you can give to your friend who can then, if they do subscribe, you'll get automatically a 1 month free extra added to your subscription, and that's per referral. So if you refer 12 people, you'll get a whole year's free license to the software. We have hired Danielle as our head of customer success, and she's producing a lot of customer success in the short time that she's been here. So Danielle, you're a godsend. Thanks so much for working with
Thank
us.
you.
And then we have, if you sign up at larrykotlikoff.substack.com for a free subscription, I immediately transform those into lifetime free subscriptions. So, and there I have posts and podcasts. Some of the posts are a little bit political. Your politics may be different from mine. I'd say if you don't like my politics, just don't read the post. Don't worry about it. We also have podcasts with people from the financial world, from the world of poetry, from the world of religion, from the world of history. We've had journalists. We've had really a who's who of Nobel laureates, talked about AI, all kinds of topics. Anything that I think should be of interest, would be of interest to you, I will sign that person up to give a podcast. They could be the most, somebody who's very well known in the world and somebody who's not known at all in the world. And it doesn't matter a damn to me if they have something, everybody has something to tell everybody else, to teach everyone else. So we bring them on. So I've had somebody, probably have somebody come in to talk, a friend of mine who's was involved in organ donations for many years as a nurse. And he'll probably come on in a couple of weeks to talk about that. We have a lawyer and a law and economics professor from NYU who's going to be on this Thursday. And so it's very eclectic, and I think you'll find something of great interest. The new features that we've added in this year are Roth conversions, and you can, we initially launched that around December of last year, but then we started to add some controls to the conversion optimization to limit cash flow problems. So you can now convert subject to not having your living standard drop in any given year, or have it drop by no more than, let's say, 10%, whatever percent you want to specify, or you can just look at all options for conversions independent of what happens to your living standard. You can also set a limit to your discretionary spending. And when you do that, the program will automatically optimize over your terminal estate. You can also limit your discretionary spending by limiting regular assets, to specifying that they are to be reserve funds. So when you enter a regular asset, you say, you check off the box that this is a reserve fund, particular asset, or you could say, I want to take some chunk of the $1 million I have maybe in regular assets and put 300,000 in reserve. Well, you would just enter two regular assets. One's 300,000 is reserve fund, 700,000 not, and the 300,000 will be left as your part of your estate. So you can produce more regular assets in your estate by limiting your spending, but also by specifying regular assets to be reserve funds. You can also specify a bequest that you want to make regardless of when you die, and that will impact how much life insurance is recommend comes out of the program. And then in addition, you can limit how much you want to withdraw from your retirement accounts apart from RMDs. So you could say, hey, I only want to spend 70% of my retirement accounts, and the program will only spend 70%. And now we're modifying that. By the end of the year, we will have the ability to let you say, well, I want to do 50%, 0% of my Roth money. Do I want to spend? I want to leave all that for my kids, but I want to spend, I'm willing to spend up to 70% of my IRA money. So you'll have that option. And that might come before the end of the year, but Ed, our president and CTO, always says I should be conservative about any promises. So,
Um, hey Larry, or do
yep.
you think you're sharing your screen? Did you say something about sharing
Oh,
your screen?
oh, geez, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Let
I
me,
hadn't realized, and
yeah, I
something
didn't
had
realize
brought it up.
okay. I've just been talking away here and not doing that.
Well, everything
So,
made sense. I was posting things in the comments, linking to
okay, so
everything
let's
you were
just
mentioning. Looks
go
perfect.
back in
Perfect. Thank you.
slideshow. So here was the logo that I mentioned. Here's and okay, let me just get rid of this guy. Okay, so what's new in MaxiFi? And then uh, here's our new initiatives, as I just went through, new website, new uh, quarterly webinar, weekly office hours, orientation sessions with Mark and Kara for new users, Roth workshops for pro users, probably extending that to households in 2026. We're going to try and provide more and more courses through time. Flight check, Copilot, concierge services. You can see those on the new site. The Reddit uh, blog that people can participate in just by going to that URL, reddit.com/r/maxify. If you refer a friend, you can get a month's free subscription. It could be a relative or coworker. Danielle is our head of customer support. And I've got my larrykotlikoff.substack.com posts and podcasts, a lot of which refer to personal finance and are discussing things like QCDs, which is one of the new features that we've added here. So here's a list of the new features. What did that do? Do that? Sorry. Okay, so here's the new features. The Roth conversions um, I told you about. We can optimize over discretionary spending or terminal estate. Sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't, for what the optimal Roth policy should be. Estate planning, well, if you set limits on your discretionary spending or you specify regular assets are going to be reserved on reserve, not to be spent, or if you specify a bequest, or if you specify that you want to limit how much is going to be spent from your retirement accounts, all these things, or you don't sell your home, or you don't sell your real estate, all these things will show up in our estate report, which is one of the new things we've added in the dashboard. And the estate report will break down the total estate into the different components in a pie chart. This would be the final year estate. And it'll show, okay, there's 6 different forms of estates, that bequests that you can leave that I just ticked off. And we'll also be allowing you shortly to limit your Roth versus non-Roth spend down, how much of those retirement accounts you'd like to actually use for spending. The RMDs, we're going to allow people to specify a start year for each of your different accounts for the RMDs, because the and the default will be what's legally required. But if you're working for an employer like I am for Boston University, you don't have to take an RMD until you actually leave employment. Uh, when we're dealing with a retirement account that's based on your current employment, there's no RMD until you retire from that job. So this is going to let people like me do a better job with our Roth conversions, because right now it doesn't know not to do the RMDs for my BU retirement accounts. We've also added HSAs, which is really the best tax break going. If you qualify to get an HSA to contribute to one, please do it because the money that goes in is tax deductible. The money that comes out, if you spend it on healthcare expenses, and everybody's going to have some out-of-pocket healthcare expenses, and this can include Medicare Part B premiums, the IRMA premiums. You can use the HSA withdrawals to cover those, and you can use those at any time in the future. It can just it will accumulate tax-free, and then you take it out and use it on a qualified medical expense or this premium, and there won't be any taxation when it goes out. But so it's basically letting you uh, get earn money for free, for free in the sense of no taxes, uh, no state taxes, no federal taxes. It's a it's a beautiful thing if you're into limiting taxes, and of course that has implications for people that are depending on government's largesse. And so I'm not sure whether beautiful is the best word for cutting taxes when the country's pretty much insolvent. I'll discuss that in a sec because I wanted to talk, re-advertise that I would talk a little bit about the economy and and policy and the global economy. QDCs is a qualified, let's see, it's a QCDs, right? It's qualified charitable distribution. So this is a typo. And since I'm always typing quickly, I'm always making typos. So I didn't catch that one. So it's qualified charitable distributions. That's in the program now. When you specify in your retirement account, for any given retirement account, you may want to be making, you may decide under special withdrawals that you'd like to make special withdrawals in order to make charitable contributions to qualified charities. In that case, those contributions to charities will not be taxable. Now, as far as I recall, this does not QCDs do not count for your RMDs. So it'd be your QCDs that are being made above and beyond your RMD, unless I've got that wrong. If anybody thinks I've got that wrong, since I might be misremembering that, chat up Danielle and we'll fix that. Or Danielle, you can run and just double check online that I said that right. Whether QCDs count for Roth for RMDs. I don't think they do. We have release notes. When you come onto the program, you're going to see a little bell at the top right, and you click on that, you'll see these nice release notes that say what's new with the program, and that'll clue you off that you could go, for example, run QCDs that you didn't before. We have a new annuity screen that we added that lets you enter annuities. These are annuities that you purchased outside of your retirement accounts, and you could be purchasing those in the future, and you can specify the tax treatment. And so we've eased the entry here and tried to improve our specification of how to of the tax treatment so that people so we can get a better handle on exactly how they're going to be taxed. And this is a big improvement over what we had before. It took quite a while to get that right. That's a big deal. So now you can kind of evaluate in alternative profiles whether or not buying specific annuities makes sense for you. Pro users can tailor their reports that they print out the PDF reports to have the report, be shorter, but also have certain things in the report and leave other things out. And then we also have in the upside investing and the full risk investing interface and reporting, things are simpler. We decided to make that simpler and easier for people to follow. And I think we've achieved that. Basically, sometimes less is more. And we have the problem of having an academic as the CEO of the company who likes to show every possible thing imaginable. But I was informed that people have a finite budget when it comes to time. So let me just quickly show that I don't want to see. I want to get rid of this guy. Everybody can still see my screen. I want to show you the new. If you haven't seen the new website, it took quite a while. It's very, very beautiful. If you want to see, features, you click here, services, you click here, resources, uh, articles, why, here's, for example, the testimonials. I'd like every one of you who's on this call to please send me a testimonial if you like the software, because we'd like to get to 1,000 testimonials. We have a long way to go, but we're getting there. So you can see all the testimonials that we've received. I'd like to get to 1,000 because I don't think any other company uh, has 1,000 testimonials, let alone says, "Hey, this is Dennis Hurley. Had this job and he lives in Texas," so that everybody knows it's a real person, not some made up thing. We also have some. This is Kara, who is now helping us, working with us, um, but she gives a fantastic testimonial. But there are other ones as well by uh, you just go from one to the next, and one's better than the next, these testimonials. So I just want to alert you to one other thing, that at the bottom of the home screen, we have our learning center, which has lots of, especially for new users getting started with MaxiFi. We have 7 little tutorial videos, are very short, basic kind of glossary concepts, some more description of these reports one by one, video tutorials. These were developed by Ed, and these were developed by Dan, our head of customer support. And then I have my podcast about different features of Social Security. So we've got 3 people telling about, giving their angles on uh, on different features of the program. And sometimes we're talking about the same thing, or showing the same thing. And then we've got Substack articles, and we have probably another 5 or 10 that we'll be adding in the next day or two that didn't make it up here on the new website. But anyway, this is a great resource. So let's now go to a quick demo of the Roth conversion feature that I wanted to set up for you. So here's a guy, John. I just want to give you like maybe 8 minutes of, in case people haven't run the Roth conversion optimizer, that there's real money here. And for some people, it could be more money than Social Security optimization. So we have this guy, John, who's retired, and he has a significant Social Security earnings history. And his Social Security strategy is to wait till 62, which till this month. He's going to take benefits. He's already turned 62, and he's going to take benefits immediately. And he's got an IRA for 100 and a quarter, and a regular assets 100 and a quarter. And he lives in Delaware, $500,000 house, some expenses, about 10K a year, no, about 12,500 a year, and no mortgage. So if I run his base plan, I've already run it, so I just clicked on it. He can spend 107,000 a year every year in hot dogs in today's dollars. So I always think about this: if you could buy a hot dog from Costco, maybe in Kansas, you can do that in Rhode Island, where I live, but I commute to Boston University in Boston, but the Costco's are selling it for like $1.50. This is my great disappointment because I love their hot dogs, and that just turned out to be a bridge too far for me when I went to Costco's. It was bad enough the ingredients, but the price. But anyway, if you think about Kansas, they're closer to the packing factory, so maybe it's $1 in their Costco stores. And let's suppose it is. That means that you can buy 107,625 hot dogs every year for the rest of your life if you're John. And then you can, of course, see that your lifetime resources can cover your lifetime spending, and that this balances. And another way to see that the program's working is you can just follow John's regular assets and see that he dies broke, except for the house that he's leaving to his I don't know, friends or whoever. He's not selling his house, and you can look at his net worth and see what that he's selling. He'll end up with his $500,000 house at the very end. So that's his estate, also his estate. So okay, so now let's just ask, what if we maximize this over Roth? uh, and we did a comparison of that with the base plan. Well, that's going to bring him $136,000. So what if we just did uh, uh, if we smoothed his con if we took let me just say that his plan here for the maximized Roth conversion is to convert almost everything over the next 3 years, like 450,000 for roughly that for a couple of years, and then a little bit less. But he's going big or going home. Uh, and the reason that this is optimal is, and it's quite surprising, but not when you realize that the problem is very nonlinear, and it's like taking your penicillin. If you have a staph infection, you want to take a big dose for a couple of days and then nothing, and that will be a cure. If you take a thimbleful of penicillin for a year, you'll be dead. So that's a very nonlinear problem as well. And the reason that you want to go big, do a lot of conversions early, but not necessarily everything, but it's very much dependent on each person, each family, but is that you've got many years to enjoy the tax break associated with the tax savings associated with not withdrawing money from your IRA that's going to trigger more federal income tax, more state income tax, more in 42 states, more taxation of Social Security benefits under the federal income tax. In some states, more state income taxation of Social Security benefits under those state income taxes, more IRMA Medicare Part B premiums. So all those things that I just ticked off about 5 different factors here, but also if you pay your taxes early through the conversions, there is a saving grace here of that pain, which is that you'll have fewer assets earning asset income and therefore less in the way of future taxes. Uh, so there is a big gain here, but let's suppose that we look at another case, which is that uh, this guy John waits till 70 to take Social Security, and then he optimizes over his. So I specified that he waits till 70, which is going to raise his lifetime discretionary spending a bit by about I think about $80,000. And I ran this with a ceiling on his spending, so that's why this is at 80,000 because I went here to set living standards. Let's see. It seems to have applied that. Okay, so I must have run that before. Let me do a different case. Look at this case. Yeah, okay, this is the case I want to look at. I clicked on the wrong thing. Sorry. So uh, here's what happens if John does 2 things. He both optimizes his Social Security benefits, and he also uh, does a Roth conversion. So now the gain is not in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's $226,000. So if he does the 2 things together, he waits to take Social Security till 70, and he does a Roth conversion in that context, having decided to wait till 70. Well, the two interact because the Roth conversion has more power if by converting, he's not going to be immediately triggering higher taxation of Social Security benefits. So you see why there's an interaction, and it's roughly about a $35,000 interaction here that the Roth conversion delivers about 35K more because he's waited to take Social Security. And you can see that his living standard is an extra roughly 7% higher every year for the rest of his life. And that's $226,000. For most of his life, he was earning, $150,000, but that was after tax. So this is an after-tax number. So he would have to probably work almost 2 years to make that much money during most of his working days. So you can see it's a big chunk of change, and it's allowing him to go on a cruise once a year that he would not ever have taken, or maybe 2 cruises, depending on the price. And maybe then he'll hopefully won't get sick on the cruise. But let me stop here. and say that all these features, well, let's just, for example, I'll just show you really where the QCD is coming in, just because that's very important. If you were going to specify a special withdrawal, you would click off qualified charitable distribution, and then that would impact those withdrawals would not be subject to taxation. They would be deductible. And that's where you would incorporate that feature. If we go back to the PowerPoint, let me just make sure I haven't left out any features that I wanted to tell you about. HSAs, where they're under health savings accounts, you can add that information about what your balances are and how much you're going to be adding. But also, this is very important to specify some idea of when you're going to be taking out the money, because if the program doesn't know that you're taking the money out, then the program is going to have you take out the money kind of at the end of your life and have to pay taxes on it. So you want to specify that you're taking it out in the way that you think you will, so that we won't be taxing these assets as they are distributed, um, as if they're coming out of an IRA. And if you specify that you're going to be taking out more than you actually can afford to take out, given the balance, we'll just stop the taking out. We'll just say, well, you've run out of money this year. You can't take out that amount. So we'll just set the withdrawal at zero. So the program will work fine if you overstate how much you think you'll be able to take out. So don't worry about that. So let me stop there and just talk about the economy. I'm going to turn off the screen sharing and just talk to everybody. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So our global economy, uh, the economy is still growing. The stock market's still booming. We have about a third of the stock market value of the S&P 500 comprised of 10 AI stocks, which are all losing money. Companies are all losing money. NVIDIA is the largest valued company in the world at $5 trillion. It had about $350 billion of sales. Sounds like a big number, but compared to 5 trillion, it's quite small. But their earnings were only $18 billion, and I think there's still some other deductions that would show their profits to be negative, because they're one of the big 10. So you want to ask yourself, if I'm investing in the S&P, am I really diversified at this point, or have I benefited enough from this possible mania for AI that could then all fall apart overnight and lead other aspects of the stock, other stocks to drop as well? Because if we have a big decline in the market caused by anything, other stocks tend to fall as well. So one needs to be particularly careful at this point in time, I believe. And other commentators like Andrew Roth Sorkin, who's a famous financial writer and columnist and book writer, just came out with a book called 1929. So you know what that is kind of telling you, that we could have 1929 all over again. There's nothing that guarantees stock markets rebound. Wall Street will tell you, well, uh, be patient, don't panic. The market will always comes back. The market doesn't always come back. In 1989, the Nikkei, the Japanese market, peaked. 30 years later, it was down in real terms 55% from where it was in 1989. So that's one 30-year observation. We have 100 years of data on the S&P. We only have 3 independent observations of 30-year holding periods in the S&P. Otherwise, we're using overlapping data, which is what Wall Street does. So they're lying. There's an old expression, figures lie and liars figure. And a lot of what Wall Street is doing is lying about the numbers and presenting the numbers in a way that's misleading. So I would say this one, word of caution, that I can't foretell the future, but I I've kind of moved personally out of being invested in those securities. There are ways to invest in AI, like investing in the server farms and the companies that are providing the electricity or the chips or well, not the chips so much as the machinery for that's being used. Uh, so there's ways to invest in what these AI companies are spending money on and contracting, and they're like, they're not likely to go under. They're likely to pay their suppliers through time, and that might be a way to be invested in AI indirectly in a safer way. The other thing to say about AI is that uh, there seems to be a lot of new AI companies coming along every day. I think one of the top AI, I think Amazon's or Meta's AI chief just decided today to go and set up his own company. So you now have something like 40 AI companies, and they're going to be competing. And where are they going to make these extraordinary profits to justify the mark being a third of the value of the stock market? That's anybody's guess. And can these things do the miraculous? Well, it seems in some cases, they can answer a lot of questions. Like I consult Perplexity AI. I think it's probably the best of the AI tools in a lot of cases to save time. So it's been very productive for me. I'm probably maybe 5% more productive with it than without, um, maybe 10%. So that's an improvement. But if you asked Perplexity AI what John, who I just showed you, should be spending, they will easily get that answer wrong by a factor of two. Yeah, I just ran a case like that. A MaxiFi puzzler that I put up under larrykotlikoff.substack.com. Perplexity, the program software said the guy should spend about 34,000 a year in hot dogs, and Perplexity said he should spend between 50 and 60,000. Now, if he did that for enough years, he would be by roughly age 85, he would be out of money and having to live literally on hot dogs. So one has to be careful. What's going on geopolitically? It seems like the world is safer. The Middle East seems, for all the tragedies that have happened there, which are terrible, does seem to have calmed down and is less of a flashpoint, less of a global concern than it was. Ukraine, the Russians are still a major threat, and they're making some progress, but it's more like inches. And the West seems to be gearing up. Will President Trump allow Russia to take over Ukraine on his watch? Probably not. Although we've had some people on my podcast who thinks he's much too buddy with Putin. And he said things from one day to the next that are very scary. If you're Ukrainian or European, uh, I'm concerned that these tariffs are not going to achieve much in the way of revenue, that the cost will eventually be passed through to households in the form of higher prices or lower wages. That's the other way that you can see higher prices is if the prices don't go up, but your wages don't go up as rapidly as they would otherwise. Maybe the prices just go up gradually at our kind of 2.5, 3% inflation rate, but our wages grow at 1%. Well, then these things that we're importing become more expensive, and that's the way in which uh, we bear the burden, where we pay the tax of these tariffs. I mean, there is some market power that the country has, and some as a monopoly, as a single buyer of certain products. But China, many of the products that China, for example, is selling, and they're facing like 45% tariffs, people can buy other people, they can sell them to other countries, or they can set up a plant in Vietnam and ship it to us that way, so that it's not really damaging China so much as impacting, uh, you know, just a little bit more expensive for us. And so the tariff policy becomes less important than we thought. Anyway, it seems like we're losing a lot of face and capital and goodwill with this. And a lot of people could start kind of realigning gradually with China because we're not a trustworthy partner on. And then some of the people in the in the area of defense and national security seem to me to be highly unqualified. We seem to be spending a lot of time undermining the rule of law, which is very important. There's a wholesale attack on universities. If you take most of the major universities, uh, the the uh, the government is not paying on existing contracts, even if these contracts with the university are defense-related research. The government's not paying their bills. And then you have, in some cases, and I'm not talking about like one or two outliers. I'm talking about uh, large research universities, UCLA, Stanford, Penn, Harvard, Cornell, Boston University. And then we've got them paying a much lower overhead rate. Uh, and then we have them not renewing new contracts or not writing new contracts. So all in all, this is an attack on the universities. Is this because President Trump did not get into Harvard? Is this some personal vendetta that he or Stephen Miller have against Harvard, and then they're extending it? Because most of the people, if you look at Harvard University, where I attended, I've never been so proud of Harvard as I am now because they have been resisting. If you look at Harvard University, maybe they had 100 or 200 or 300 people saying stupid things about, supporting in effect Hamas without perhaps knowing it or really doing or saying that or really well, whatever. Maybe they were anti-Semites. Maybe they should not have been allowed to do what they did. But we're talking about a handful of people compared to a vast community of scholars, and many of whom are scientists who could, are focused on their research, and this can be life-saving research. So sorry for going on about this, but I'm a little bit incensed that anybody would undermine what is the biggest, one of the biggest advantages, maybe our best industry in the country, which is higher education. And we're also now discouraging people from coming to work here and to study here. We're down in I'll just say one last thing here, which is we have a master's program. It was doing great at BU. We would bring in 80 students from China every year. It would help support our graduate program, which is ranked the 12th in the country. We were bringing in 25 grad students, mostly from abroad every year, paying for them from our master's program. Now what's happened is those 80 grad students, master's students from China aren't coming here. They're going to the University of Hong Kong. So we're down 80 students, or it turns out to be exactly the 80 Chinese students. We don't have the funding to bring in a decent sized graduate class. We're only admitting 8 people this year. It used to be 25. So this is, if this continues for years, we will not have a first-rate economics department, and people will start, many of our foreign faculty will go back home and teach there. So this is dangerous. This is dangerous for the economy because a lot of the people that are graduating from
Okay.
our top
Hey, Larry.
universities are going to run. Yeah, let's stop.
You're fine. We hit the 3:45 mark, so I'm just going to
Great.
open the floor for questions. We have plenty of Q&A, so I just want to get to some of the good ones that I think could help people and potential interested buyers. So I'll move forward here if that's okay. In the Q&A, so there is a question about Maxify not including local taxes in state tax calculation. And they're saying this has a significant effect on total taxes, may impact Roth conversions. Do you think we should plan to address that? Is
I
what the
think we should plan to address certainly New York City taxes. We already have DC taxes because we treat DC as a separate state. Um, there are something like 3,000 municipalities here. They can each have their own taxes, including sales taxes, although we don't handle sales taxes. So if you have a particular income tax, usually it's going to be likely a proportional tax. You would enter that as an extra special receipt. So you should just try and enter a path of future special expenses that are not tax related to capture these local income taxes. And also you can email me at kotlikoff@gmail. Tell me about your particular local local income tax. And maybe it's the city of Houston, maybe it's something I don't know about, and we'll add it to our to-do list if it's important enough. Okay. We only have a small, this is why we need more testimonials so we can have more customers, so we can have more engineers, so we can then, ideally code up every single of the 3,000 tax systems and then update them every year. which you can imagine how much time that would take. But we would do it if we had enough resources.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. We have an anonymous attendee talking about how there are now three optimization options: Social Security, Roth conversion, and a account withdrawal order, something to that nature. They're asking what you would recommend the sequence of these optimizations be as they run.
I think it's really in the order that we've started, which is Social Security first, because that's so big a deal. It really dominates other decisions. And then I would do the Roth optimization, and then I would optimize over start dates. But then I would flip around the start dates and the Roth optimization, try it that way as well. And we hope next year by this time to have those last two optimizations done jointly uh, and rather than sequentially. But the order in which you do it may matter, so you should do it both ways and have a little fun with this because, grab a beer uh, and, you know, figuring out ways to save taxes is ways to make money. And this is a great video game, in effect, for older people and, well, anybody. You could be 35 and think about switching jobs. It's a fun thing to do to how can I improve my living standard by moving from Tampa and being an audiologist to Jackson, Mississippi. And I included this in my Money Magic book right at the beginning because I was trying to get young people interested. I think maybe by focusing on young people, the book didn't sell, but it did win a couple awards for including the Business Journalist as the best personal finance book of 2022. It's called Money Magic. Anyway, turns out that if you move to Jackson and that they're paying like 50% more and the taxes are lower and the housing's cheaper from Tampa. So, and it's not that far to get from one to the other. So you have your friends come down and buy them a hotel room for the weekend. Anyway,
Okay. All right. Moving on. Oop, lost my Q&A section. Found it. Okay. It says if a qualified annuity is converted to Roth when the account value is low, is the conversion taxed at the low account value or the potential much higher income-based value?
if a qualified annuity, sorry, give me that one more
Yeah,
time.
I'll give it to you one more time. I'm not sure I quite understand it. If a qualified annuity is converted to Roth,
Yeah.
yeah, when the account value is low, is the conversion taxed at the low account value or the potential much higher income base? It might have been about something.
It's going to be okay. So when you convert, let's say, $500,000 or $50,000 from a Roth, now that adds to your taxable income. So now your taxable income was down here, now it's going to be up by 50,000, and you're going to be taxed on the total. So it's going to be added to it. It's going to be on top, and that's what your tax will be calculated. So it might push you into a higher tax bracket, but again, that might be a good thing to do, be to pay your taxes early so that you can have much lower taxes in the future and lower IRMA, lower Social Security benefit taxation. Uh, and by the way, the Social Security benefit taxes, that taxation, there are two thresholds. First, half of your Social Security benefits are subject to taxation, and then 85%. And those thresholds are not indexed for inflation. So the longer you wait, kind of the worse the Social Security taxation gets. So if you can keep things away from being taxed, keep your Social Security benefits taxation limited, that's a good thing.
All right. Okay, moving on. Alan H says, I have spoken with the team about this in the past. I get K1s from partnerships, end up having to do several special expenses, special receipts, anything we can do to address time-consuming workaround of stuff like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't know what the K1 is going to be. I mean, we do have some, um, we do ask you what fraction in the tax under settings and assumptions under tax assumptions, we ask what fraction is coming in the form of dividends or capital gains, and how much of the capital gains are being realized uh, every year as opposed to retained. So we are incorporating that. So I would say look at those settings and assumptions, and then if Dan can answer your questions, feel free to email me at kotlikoff@gmail, and we'll talk about how to set your settings there to deal with this. But it might be that you've sold, this particular security. Well, here's an example where you might not want to use those settings. It might be that you have some property that you want to sell this year, or a particular stock that has a big capital gain that you want to sell because you want to diversify. You feel like that maybe the stock is going to drop in price, and you don't want to sell. You don't want to kind of pay the capital gain taxes gradually through time, which is what our program assumes if you have unrealized capital gains and you specify that in the tax assumptions. But you want to decide you want to, realize it maybe in 3 years when you retire in that year. So then what you could do is leave it out of regular assets, specify it as a special receipt, the amount that you're going to sell. The basis you would enter is one special receipt that's not taxable 3 years from now. The other was a special receipt that's taxable capital gains rate, which is the capital gains component of what your proceeds are. And now you've got that kind of time to lower your lifetime taxes. So there are things you can do, and if it's not immediately clear, give a shout, okay? That's what we're here for.
All right, perfect. All right, we have another question in from Richard N.
Yep.
This he's asking how would you go about entering any large assets that happen after January 1st of the year? Would you enter those or wait?
I would basically go back uh, to thinking about this being January 1 of the year that you're in, and adding, putting in your current asset balances, uh, and then to the extent that they're higher than you would have expected uh, at the point in time where you're running the program, I would put the difference in as additional regular assets or additional retirement account balances, and run it that way. You will get, it's not going to be perfect because perfect would require uh, doing the analysis of how much should be kind of changing from an annual basis to a monthly basis. And that would require asking, we've thought about this time and time again uh, to help people with this, but it would require asking so many additional questions about, well, this special expenditure, how much of it that you're going to do for the year, how much of it have you done up till this point? And we might still go this way. That's also on our thinking to think some more about. But for right now, I think basically entering what you've got as if it's January 1st is not going to be too far off the mark, and putting on your total special expenses for the year and your total special receipts and your earnings for the year, because we want to get your taxes for the year right. If it's kind of towards the end of the year, and we don't want to overstate too much your asset income taxes because you haven't had those assets earning interest income, for example, if it's other bonds for the whole year. So maybe a little bit uh, thoughtful about, maybe putting a little bit less in the way of assets. If you have more assets than you had expected when you first ran at the beginning of the year, then put in something that really corresponds to the increase over what you would have expected to have by November. I guess that's the way I would put it.
Right. Trying to find a couple to end on here. There is one I think that's asking, um, somebody was asking your opinions on, are tips still a safe investment and will that continue if the dollar keeps losing value? Without getting too political, just give your opinion there because we had a couple of questions asking that.
Yeah. So the BLS head of the BLS has been changed, and I'm not sure they put in a new BLS head because I think the one that was nominated didn't get enough support in the Senate for reasons that people can think about on their own or discern on their own. But this is an agency with about 2,000 people putting together these numbers, and they're very dedicated to getting the right number out. And there's also independent measures of inflation. So if anybody was really screwing around with the CPI index in a material way, it would be front page news. It's also being used to index the Social Security benefits of something like 77 million voters. Well, people, probably about 70 million of whom are voters. So I don't see that the CPI will be manipulated uh, adversely when it comes to Social Security benefits. Now, the Social Security system is in trouble, and they're saying there's going to be a 23% benefit cut starting in 2033, and that could happen. I don't think that's likely. I think they're going to raise taxes. And again, as I said, but you can run the program MaxiFi or Maximize My Social Security by specifying a 23% benefit cut and optimize subject to that. You can also do Roth conversions, optimizing subject to federal income taxes going up and state income taxes. The states aren't in great financial shape either. So if you look at Kotlikoff.net, which is my website, I just did a study with the Bank of Italy that shows that the U.S. is in much worse, far worse fiscal shape than is Italy, even though we have more official debt per, relative to GDP. Sorry, Italy has more relative to GDP than we do. We have a lot more off the books debts relative to GDP than does Italy. So we need about 7.5% of GDP in additional taxes to cover all the outlays that we have projected by the Congressional Budget Office. Italy needs about 3.4% more of its GDP to pay for more taxes to pay for its projected outlays projected by its Ministry of Finance. So we're in terrible shape. Neither country can afford to leave this bill to future generations because in both countries it would require taxing future generations, everybody born this year and in the future, at roughly 104% of their lifetime labor income. And that would obviously lead them to either starve to death or leave the country. So just leaving this kicking the can down the road is no longer feasible, and we have to face reality.
All right. All right, perfect. I think that leads us sort of to the end of our first quarterly webinar here. Larry, is there anything you want to leave the people with before we end here?
Well, I would just say spread the word. The testimonials really appreciate. Just send them to Kotlikoff at Gmail. I'd love to post them, and that we're here to help you, and we're here to get. It's been 32 years of improving the software. We've gone broke so many times it's hard to count. But we've been saved by the National Institute of Health gave us a grant. The Federal Reserve of Atlanta gave us paid for a big research project, and we use the funds to keep the company alive. So we really have the best mousetrap, bar none. There's nothing like it. We've got patent-winning algorithms here. We've built off of those and have all kinds of trade secrets. Nobody will ever be able to replicate this. Wall Street is primarily interested in your assets to charge you fees. There are 340,000 advisors. We have advisors using MaxiFi. They're the ones to use if you want an advisor. We can also help you in-house with our services, but we're not able to give you financial advice or tax advice. We can just give you educational guidance, but we're not RIAs or CFPs except for Jay. So I would say, look at people using our software as advisors if you're going to go with an advisor. But the idea is to enjoy this program because you can, it's not going to be, a lot of people avoid financial planning because they think it's like going to the dentist. Well, this is like going for a checkup and learning that if you take this pill, you can run an extra 10 miles a day because there's so many ways you can improve your lifestyle and make intelligent decisions with the software. So I please use it every day, use it every week, use it every month at least, or every year at least, and tell everybody you know about it. Have your employers call us up and make it part of a fringe benefit package. It's probably the most important thing they could do for their employees. give it as a gift for the holiday to your kids, to your parents, and to your friends. So thanks so much for being so loyal. We can't survive without you, and we deeply appreciate your business. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. All right. See you at the next one. Bye bye.